Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. We are trying something new. Hopefully this will work for everybody. We are recording this and we'll be posting it on our website so that if you are following up, trying to get a hold of information and see this once again, you can view segments. I know there are several people who could not make any of the meetings, so hopefully this will be something that will allow them to excuse me, I think we got some feedback. Okay, we'll allow them to get the information that is needed. I will be sharing my screen with you. You're at work. I'll be sharing my screen with you. The PowerPoint is on the website, and we'll be going through not only the PowerPoint, but also where the resources are. If at any time you have a question, there is a chat I think it's along the bottom for you. We'll be monitoring the chat box if you have questions. As we go through this session, I'll be stopping after each section to answer any questions that you may have. Just because of the sound levels and how things are potentially working, I'd rather work through the chat, but if it is something that's critical for you to have a conversation, potentially we can do that either after we record this, especially if it's school specific, or if you can give me a call, or we can talk later. So anyways, we're going to get going. Going to get the PowerPoint pulled up here. Okay, so again, my name is Tim Peterson. Those of you who have not met me, I think we all have seen each other at some point or another. The Director of Assessment. Let's see if we can. And the purpose of these meetings is to share information with each other let's see, I'm learning this, so please bear with me. The purpose of these meetings is to share with each other.
Yeah.
If you could please mute your microphone as you come in, that would be great. I appreciate that.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. I have no idea where the microphone is, but apparently you can hear me. So.
Okay.
Do you need to see my face, or do you want me to I could do this?
You know, that's perfect.
That's probably better than actually seeing my face.
Yeah, and then you can put a little question mark if you have a question. We'll try and mute your microphone, otherwise we're going to pick up a lot of background noise. So,
let me try to figure that out here.
In the bottom left-hand corner, I think.
Bottom left-hand corner. Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. We'll get this figured out. Today's agenda, we're going to spend time on access, the updates for this year, as that is coming very quickly. We'll spend a little bit of time on CogAT. I know that is not something that all the middle schools will be interested in, but we'll spend a few minutes there because we have all the elementary schools that need to know information. Wisconsin Forward is we're just beginning to get information. Then we'll be looking at web resources where you can find things on our website, some information about MAP, climate survey, and opt-outs. We're already in the webinar, so here we go. Access, what's new this year? We have, the vendor has said that they've spent a lot of time and effort improving the software so that it is going to be much more stable for every component of access. We'll talk a little bit about the speaking component in a little bit. The training itself has been updated. We'll also spend some time talking about that, as well as our supports and accommodations sheet. I will show you in a few moments what, hang on just a second. I'm going to try and make sure that everybody has the PowerPoint, as well as if you could, we're trying to figure out how to mute people's microphones as we go. So the supports and accommodations will also be a part of this process. Okay. Let's see. All right, so the timeline that we're going to be working with comes in 3 parts. Now until November 1st, the 1st of November to December 12th, which is when our MMSD's test window for access will open, and then the test window itself, which is December 12th through the February 3rd. If you take a look and if you focus on the first things that have to happen, we're in the process of preparing both district-wide and in the school process. We'll talk in a moment about getting OASIS updated and then the professional development. The next section will be PD, scheduling the actual assessment, and continued preparation both at the district level and at the building level. Finally, assessment, the testing window will open. Results will be back at the same time frame. It will be back in mid-April roughly, so right around our spring break. Now, from today until November 1st, here is a critical deadline that is really important for us, both as a district and as a building. The supports and accommodations that are allowed for students who are English language learners and who have an IEP, those need to be updated in OASIS. It may be there, it may not be, but this is our opportunity from now until November 1st to make this happen in a very smooth way for the operation. You will find that I'm trying to remember, in OASIS, it will be an I-7 component of that. You will not need to hold a meeting to make those changes. You'll simply need to click the boxes of the appropriate supports or accommodations. In a few moments, we'll take a look at what those are and a way you can find those for your staff. This is a critical piece. Those of you who were involved in Access last year will remember that if tickets are produced and then there's a change in the IEP, we have to pull students out of sessions, change the supports, print a new ticket, and put them back into sessions, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're in the middle of testing, it can be time-consuming and cumbersome, and you will not want that to happen while you're testing. We also realize that OASIS itself, you will probably be having a few students who have open IEPs, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So the process that we're going to follow is you need to get the supports and accommodations in OASIS. We need to also identify students who are going to be taking the alternate access. This will most likely be students who have taken the alternate access in the past. Very few new students. It's likely also that if we do have students, new students, to the system who will take the alternate, they will also be aligned with the dynamic learning maps, map assessment in the rest of the year, so they would not likely take the forward. We're talking about 1% of all the students. We will then be sending, we'll be getting you a list of all the students. So November 1st, we need to have this by November 4th, we will be sending out a roster to all schools with students who we, from OASIS, we expect to be having and using accommodations or supports for access testing. So it's going to give you a little bit of time to take a look and share this with your CC teachers and anyone who is supporting those particular students to make sure that we do have this right before we actually print the tickets. Remember that during this entire time, all the way through the access window, if you get a new English language learner in your building, you follow the same process that you have in the past. Now, if they're transferred from within the district, that's not any, you don't have to do the WAPT. just let us know and we can make that move. However, if they are new to the country, if they are new to the state, we need to make sure that the same protocols are followed as in any other time of the year. So the question becomes, will new students have to take the access? And the answer is yes, they will, unless they take the alternate access. That being said, we will set a cutoff date about 1 week prior to the end of the access testing window, which we know that things get pretty crazy with scheduling, and you will not be required to give the access this year for that particular student. So 1 week prior to that is sometime the end of January for those kids. So in general, between now and November 1st, you're developing a schedule, you're looking at locations, you're involving staff in looking at student support, and you're beginning to look at technology and making sure that that's available during the test time. We also have professional development going on. Now, Jen Kluterman from OMGE, who's here in the room with me, and Sarah Wallner from my department have spent, I'm going to say countless hours, but they've gone through actually all the professional development and taken a look at this. It is new this year compared to last year. All staff members who are involved with the access testing need to take the professional development. You need to recertify if you're actually going to be giving the assessment in the classroom face-to-face or in a room face-to-face. You need to recertify. There will be a quiz. It's about 10 questions, well, exactly 10 questions, and you will be required to score an 80% or 8 out of 10. The professional development is approximately 1.5 hours long. It could take a little bit longer depending on which particular modules you take a look at. Both Sarah and Jen have sent out a list of the modules, the requirements, to all who we think are the appropriate people as far as which ones you will need to take. If there's a question, please don't hesitate to ask. If you say, do I need to take this? Do I need to take that? Please ask us and let us know. By the same token, a question that often arises is, do assessment coordinators at the building level need to take this professional development? And the answer is yes. Since you are going to be involved with the assessment from a logistics end, you do need to know what's going on. There are some modules that you will not have to take, but there are professional development pieces saying they are showing you, for instance, how to print out tickets. You're going to find that to be pretty important. Okay, moving on with things. And I know that I'm going through this fairly quickly, but we will stop and take questions in a few moments. So you'll remember, if you were involved with access testing last year, the assessment management system, the AMS from WIDA, that software is open for access to, I need to be careful. It's open for you to take a look at right now. We're double checking to make sure you all have the rights that you need in order to look at it. However, right at this very moment, nothing is there. Students are not being uploaded until the 25th of October. So next Tuesday, students will be uploaded. My guess is that you will be able to see them on AMS on Wednesday.
They should be available for viewing on November 1st. It takes about a week for DPI to get their stuff in order.
Never mind, I've been corrected. They will be available for viewing on November 1st. So DPI is going to be pulling the data from IC on the 25th. So if there are any corrections that need to be made by the 24th, that's the important date for us. DPI pulls the information. They will be placed into predetermined sessions. You'll be able to see the information November 1st. Also, a change for this year. In the past, Sarah, Marlena, and I have asked you to send us when the starting time is. This year, it's just Sarah and I. We've been working with tech services, and they have said, let's cut out the middle people. You need to connect with your building tech and let them know when it is that you are going to be doing your first testing and where you're going to be doing the time, the date, and the location. What this does is allows them to schedule their time so that they can be there in support of you when this technology kicks in. We absolutely believe that this is going to go smoother this year than it did last year. And we'll talk a little bit about the speaking component and how that's changed in just a moment. Okay, now you've updated Oasis, you've got all the supports in. Beginning November 1st, you'll continue with professional development. Once you take the quiz, there will be a certificate of completion. You do not need to print that out. Unless the building principal wants it, all you just need to know is make sure that you have completed it. I have the ability to go in and take a look at who has started, who has not completed in the WIDA website. Once we get close to the actual test date, I will probably be following up with people saying, hey, you need to finish your professional development, get your certificates so that you can actually give the assessment. Also, during this time, these 5 or 6 weeks, remember that we have Thanksgiving break in here, so you'll need to spend some time creating your building schedule, how you're going to do this, the access testing. We'll also be printing tickets and sending them to you. So there will be 4 tickets, 1 for each of the different sessions. And you'll recall, if you've done this before, there are 4 domains. Listening and reading will be the first 2 domains, and then that will be followed by writing and speaking. So you'll get 4 tickets for each student. The sessions are pre-populated. You have the ability as assessment coordinators to go in and remove students from sessions and put them into new ones. Let me tell you that if you want to avoid headaches, having to leave them where they're at, you can test students in any physical setting regardless of which session that DPI puts them in. We'll talk about some specifics in a few minutes, but I would urge you strongly to not remove students from sessions on your own. If you choose to, let us know so that we can help guide you through that process, but it will be cumbersome. Finally, just a reminder that anytime sessions are changed, a student is pulled out of a session, put back in, new tickets will need to be created and printed and distributed. So that's the big reason why we're suggesting that you not create new sessions and move students around. Okay, also during this time, we have available on our website, and I'll send out to you a link for sample questions. So students who have never taken access, who are probably, I would say, if they're 4th graders who have not taken the writing portion, you need to make sure that students have some sense of what it's like to take this assessment online. If parents ask questions about what does this look like, you can certainly share the link with them or show them the site. So there are sample questions, there's a sample test as well. Other things that you need to consider as you're planning and scheduling time is that you need to complete a single domain on the same day that you started. So the first 2 domains that are tested are listening and reading. You don't have to do them both on the same day, but once you start a domain, it needs to be completed for each of the students who are involved in that testing. Another case, if you're taking all your 5th graders into a room and you have a couple who are not there, that's fine. The ones that are there, start the domain and finish it on the same day. I had a question earlier. Can you do more than one domain on a single day? The answer is yes. You could do listening and reading on the same day. Keep in mind test fatigue, as students will be focusing on this. And also, once students get completed with the two components, the listening and the reading, then they will be generating, the software and the vendor will be generating which tests that they take for writing and speaking. So that comes a little bit later. Also keep in mind that headsets are important for all of the domains. Most cases, you will want to have just the headphones, blocks out the background noises, so allows students to concentrate. And we'll talk in just a moment about the headsets, the ones with the microphones that you will need for the speaking component. Again, just a reminder, we will be stopping and answering questions when I'm finished with this particular section. So I apologize if you just are, hopefully you're writing something down, your thoughts, so that you don't lose them. Finally, the test window. The test window opens for the district on December 12th. I just want to, in full openness, I want to let you know that the state window opens a week earlier. Last year, we were right out there on the edge of the session. We opened the same day the state did, and there were some technical issues, so we wanted to make sure that this year we let someone else have the technical issues. So we are working with small groups of students during that first week, just slowly working our way into the assessment. And once December 12th comes along, we're ready and willing and focused on making sure that all our students in all our buildings have access to the access test. Keep in mind that overall we have over 4,000 students who will be taking this test, so there is a demand for support, and we will be working to get to you and support as quickly as possible. So the first assessment, the first domains, they do not have to happen in this order. You could do reading first, and then listening, then reading. When you are finished with those two sessions, the software creates what happens for the next sessions. At this point, I'm not sure how fast that happens. I'm going to tell you that it will probably be overnight. Could you do listening and reading in the very early morning and expect a test in the afternoon? I would not say that that's something that we want to promote. Once the listening and reading sessions are complete, we'll wait overnight. You can then begin, if you want, with the writing and speaking levels. Small groups for speaking are going to be critical. You'll recall last year, the speaking was the actual bottleneck for the assessment. We were able to get 1, 2, 3 students at a time in the speaking component. This year, the vendor has taken that to heart and understands that, and they have created a change in the software that will, they assure us, and that's why we're letting other people go first. The vendor assures us that 6 at a time is not going to be an issue. Now, one of the things that we don't know yet, and we should know by our next month's meeting, is can you have multiple small groups going at the same time? The reason 6 is the magic number is that if you've got a small room with 6 students speaking, the software is going to pick up the noise from around the room. Any more than 6, and it's likely that it will be interfering, it'll get pretty loud and interfere with student recording. So 6 would be the max. We're looking to see if we can have multiple small groups going at the same time. So if you've got 60, 70, 80 English language learner students who are testing, it might be something that you want to do. You might want to have several small groups going at once. This is the particular test that you will need to have the headsets, so with the microphones on them. I had a question at the face-to-face meeting. The nice little foam piece at the end of the microphone seems to disappear. The question then is that critical? It turns out that it's not. You may want to have the kind of a antiseptic wipe that you can take off that foam piece, you can wipe down the microphone, and you can use it for the next student right away. Now, back to the writing component. First of all, you can mix levels and grades for all the other components except for writing. You cannot mix the tiers. A has to be separate from BC. So B and C levels can be together. They're basically going to take approximately the same amount of time to do this. Level A is going to be something else. They have a shorter amount of time, and you need to keep those separate. So you could have multiple grades in the same room, but not multiple tiers for the writing. Also, one of the things that we know is that last year, kindergarten had a completely pencil and paper assessment. That will continue. Grades 1 through 3 will have the online listening, reading, and speaking. But grades 1 through 3 will also have physical books for pencil and paper for the writing component. The default this year for writing for grades 4 and up is the online version. So we will not be getting any books, writing booklets automatically for grades 4 and up. Now, I understand that you will likely have a few students who, first of all, English is difficult because they just arrived in the country, and second of all, an English keyboard is, maybe they've never had experience on a keyboard. In that case, we certainly may will provide a pencil and paper booklet. We will be sending out and asking for specifics about what you need as we get closer and closer to the test date. So keep in mind that when things come in, material comes in, we do not automatically get a pencil and paper writing assessment. A couple more slides about access, and then we'll open it up to questions. This is the same slide as last year. The time frame is the same. That has not changed. You will again be looking at the listening and the reading first. These are approximate times, as there is not a little clock up in the corner that ticks when a student is assessing. So we say that this is untimed. However, please keep in mind that the times that are given on the screen on this particular chart are approximately what WIDA has found that it takes. We all know that we have students who like to just completely pore over a question, and they would be there for 2 or 3 hours if you let them. So as far as the listening is concerned and the reading, 40, 35 minutes together is going to be what it is that they should be. So 35 minutes for reading, 40 minutes for listening. At the bottom of this, you see that speaking is 30 minutes, and I believe that is pretty much what it will be. They will cut you off at 30 minutes. So this is the only one that really is timed, but it is more than enough time to get a good sense of where the student is at as far as speaking is concerned. The writing, 45 minutes for level A and 60 minutes for BC, again, are approximate. One more slide, and we'll take a look at, this is a sample question that is out there on the WIDA site. There is a link on this PowerPoint. However, we will also place the link on our website, and we will, you can certainly use that and share that with people as we go. I'm going to switch back to my screen. So I guess I would like to open it up to questions if you have any, and I'll address where they're at. If you've got something you can type in the chat, that's great. I'm not sure how I'm going to if you, I think there's a raise your hand kind of function on this, but I don't know where it is. So if you raise your hand and I ignore you, please don't be offended. So.
I've been monitoring chat. This is Sarah Wellman talking right now. I've been monitoring chat as we've gone along. We don't have too many questions, but Katie was wondering, are the sample questions the same ones that are shown to introduce the real test as last year? So I think I'm understanding her question better now. She said when they made time for students to do practice questions last year, they wound up repeating the same ones once they were logged in to do the test. So I believe each domain, if I remember correctly, if anybody remembers this differently, please let me know. I think that each domain had built-in practice time, which kind of gave a refresher on what the students would be experiencing when they log into the test right before they take it, which for most students is probably going to be sufficient. I don't think, unless you've got newbies, first grade, second grade, who might not be used to taking online assessment, the built-in practice tests are probably going to be sufficient for each domain. But I will take that question to WIDA to make sure that that's the same setup this year so that we don't miss anything important. So hopefully that answers your question, Katie. Thanks for bringing that up.
All right. And also, we had a question about is taking a practice test required? If the students have already taken this this version of Access in the past, again, I would think just the warm-ups at the beginning of each assessment would be enough. My concern would be for any student who has never taken the Access or not this particular version for whatever reason. I don't want them to experience the test, their first experience of the test, to be on the test day. So giving them a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, I think is a wise thing to do. Do we have any other questions? We'll follow up with the chat as we go. If you have questions, can you mix tiers on speaking tests? The answer is yes, you can. Again, because of the small group that you've got, you may end up with because of absences, etc. You may end up with a tier BC with a tier A. Again, because they will have headsets, they should be listening to the prompt and responding to that with minimal disruption from their neighbors. But yes, you can have mixed tiers for the speaking tests.
Before we move away from Access, Tim, I just want to interrupt one more time to go back to what Tim had talked about with OASIS and this November 1st deadline. So Tim talked about updating OASIS. What's important there is that case managers remember, and they have been communicated, the PSTs in each building have all been communicated to by student services about this deadline. And just a reminder, because it's kind of the first assessment where we need to build in accommodations for students. So there should be, case managers in your building should be aware that they should go back in and review what they have for Access. But on the first, when we pull those accommodations, our intention of creating lists that will be shared with you on the 4th are so that you have a chance to see mostly if a student is missing accommodations that you think that they should have, and that would give you time, about a week, to check in with case managers and make sure that, for example, if an IEP happens to be open at the moment that I click the button on OASIS, it's going to come up blank, as if the student has no accommodations, even though they do. So we just want to cover our bases early on and make sure that you guys aren't scrambling to have us add things come December. So hopefully this will help kind of get an overview of what kind of accommodations are going to be in your building, but also if there are students that are missed, That way you can check back in with us, with case managers, and get those added before we upload the actual accommodations, which is going to happen the week of Thanksgiving. That's the first opportunity we'll have to add those.
The question is, are special ed teachers aware of how a student would qualify for the alternate access? The answer is yes, that the PSTs have been communicated with by student services. Typically, it will be students who have an alternate set of standards that they're being instructed to. They may be in the same classroom as everyone else, but they are not, they're learning to different standards. Again, this would probably be the 1% of students that we typically talk about who would take the dynamic learning map. So, any other questions before we move on? Again, if you think of things, please make sure you use the chat box, and we will be monitoring that as we go. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to briefly talk about the next topic, which is going to be CogAT. So those of you who are familiar with this, bear with me for just a moment. But there are several people. We have many new assessment coordinators this year. CogAT is a cognitive problem-solving screener. It is for grades 2 and 5. It is one of many pieces of data that is used by advanced learning to provide supports for these students who are at the top levels, but it is not the only piece of data. It is not designed to be language dependent. So the assessment itself for second grade has a series of pictograms. So it's A is to B as C is to D, but it will have pictures rather than using words. There's a few more English words on the 5th grade where they'll have to do a little bit more reading. And we have I've shared with you, and we'll show you in a few minutes, where you can find the accommodations. Is it okay? You know, questions always arise. Is it okay to read the instructions in another language? So I have a student who speaks Russian, fairly new to the country, is not real strong in English. So can I have my BRS read to the student in Russian? So we have a sheet that describes what accommodations are appropriate, what supports are appropriate, and the answer is yes, you can. So just a reminder that we are only using the screener version, that in the past we have had many, much longer CogAT assessments. The entire time for the actual test is less than 45 minutes. I would schedule approximately an hour to do the whole thing. So reading the instructions, having the students do the assessment, reading the instructions for the next section. There are 3 sections. So by the time you're done, it would be approximately an hour. Grade 2 students write in the test booklet that they're given. Grade 5 has an answer sheet, so they bubble things in. All of that material does need to be returned to us after you are finished with the assessment. The window
Starts on Monday.
The window starts on Monday, the 24th of October, and goes to I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry.
2 weeks. The final day is November 4th.
November 4th. So I believe a week after that, so by the 11th, we would be looking for the documents all being sent back to us. I know that you really don't want those sitting around in your schools anyway, so please send them to us as soon as you're done. You should have received with your materials a document that had information from Sarah, and then it said on the back side there will be information regarding how to ship it. We discovered that we only printed it on one side. So there was a follow-up email with the second side, the second page, to all the coordinators. So you should have all those documents. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, because we want to make sure that we collect all the student information, that it is out and back to us. By this time, I hope that you will have shared with parents the letter that is found on the website. We have it at this point, I believe, in 4 languages. We have it in English, Spanish, Hmong, and Chinese. I'm working on getting the Arabic version because we have people who are translating that as well. As far as results are concerned, when we ship it out after the November 11th date, we'll get it out to the vendor the next week. The results should be back by mid to late December, which puts it right about winter break. We will be sharing those with you and the advanced learning teams as soon as possible. We will be mailing those results home to families mid to late January. So it'll go pretty quickly once we get those back in. I'm going to go back now and see if we have any questions about CogAT, because that's staring us in the face right now. The deadline, is there a deadline for CogAT letters? I always, for them to be sent home, I always like to make sure that they're home in time for parents to respond to them, to react. So just before you do the assessment, that's the only fair thing. If you have not done that prior to the assessment, it's not the end of the world, but I really strongly believe that we need to communicate with parents and let them know about the assessment. I also have another access question. The question is about the level of support from OMGE and what kind of support that you can expect. Jen Kluterman will be sending out emails to schools regarding that particular level of support. It's my understanding that it will be similar this year, but she will have the information. And when I finished up the access portion of this just a few moments ago, the OMGE team said, "See ya." So they're not here to answer the question right now.
And it's my understanding, this is Sarah again, my understanding that it will be the same as last year, and that she will be contacting schools with DLI programs. So I would expect to hear from her in the next couple of weeks regarding that type of support.
Great. Okay. Any other questions about CogAT? All right, let's continue.
Oh, there's one more question on CogAT. Is it appropriate for newcomer ELLs or students with significant disabilities to take CogAT?
So if a student has significant disabilities, this is one of the assessments that should be in the IEP. It is a different kind of assessment as far as it looks at problem-solving ability instead of academic knowledge. So I would rely absolutely on the IEP. If students are new to the country, like last week they arrived on your doorstep, this is an interesting one. The CogAT is designed so that it is as minimally dependent upon language as is possible. I'm going to say that you need to use your judgment on that. If the kids are absolutely lost and there's a language that you have not gotten a VRS to read the instructions for, first of all, let us know so that we can be aware of that, and we'll double check the, if we can provide any more support from downtown. But in general, I would say if they're a DPI level 1, that it's not likely that it would, especially in grade 2, it's not likely that it would be something that they will struggle with it. Okay. I want to make sure that I get this straight. So the accommodations that we have, I'll show you that in a moment, the sheet that we have, as well as I'm going to double check with our student services person on this particular question. I want to get it right. I get the situation, but I also want to make sure that I'm not handing you some information that someone's going to turn around next week and say, why did you do it that way? So Emily will make sure that you get that information. Okay. Next topic. The forward exam. We got information, the student results back from the forward exam in late August, early September. Hardly useful. It went out to parents as quickly as we could get it out the door. One of the issues that DPI has said is going to be changing for this coming year because of that date is that they're moving the assessment window forward. Sorry, here we go again, access forward. They're moving it earlier in the year. So the forward exam will begin, the state window will open on March 20th, which is pretty early. So March 20th, and it goes for 7 weeks. So it ends approximately the end of April. I think it's the 25th, somewhere around there, the end of April. Now, the interesting thing is we have 3 weeks of the test window open, and then we have the MMSD spring break, followed by 3 more weeks of the test window. Now this year, spring break begins, it's the week of April 10th, so it's actually pretty late. And having spent time in schools earlier in my career, I know how focused students are when you have a late spring break and how ready they are for a test like the forward. So the 3 weeks before, I completely understand that you say, well, that's not a good time for students to test because they'll be distracted. Likewise, the 3 weeks after spring break aren't necessarily ideal either. However, that's what we're handed this year, and that's what we need to do. So it will be March 20th, there will be 3 weeks, then we'll have spring break. Upon returning, we'll have 3 more weeks of the assessment window open. There is no overlap between MAP and forward testing this year. So MAP will follow, I believe it is I want to say the 1st of May through the 26th of May. And so that we'll be using the same RIT scores as we did 2 years ago, so none of that will change. We won't have the confusion like we did last spring, etc. So again, I would like to open it back up for questions about forward. All right, we're almost finished. I am going to switch back to the next slide. And we're going to be sharing some resources in a moment. I've alluded to the accommodations, and so let's take a look at it. I just want to make sure, I wonder if people can actually see this.
No, you're still on the PowerPoint.
Got it, okay. We'll try this. There. All right, I'm going to switch back to our home page. And a couple things have changed. We've tried to update every single document on here this summer. One of the things that we're working on and will continue to work on throughout the year is that there is an equivalent Spanish side to the assessment pages. One of the resources that we have, if you go to the calendars, you'll notice that there are planning action calendars. I just mailed that out to everyone. And so you'll be able to see the updated versions for elementary and middle school. I hope that this is something that is helpful for you. We put it over on the right-hand side, a checkbox if it's a to-do for you to do. There are other things that you just need to know that are going on that you don't have to do anything. So for instance, on the 31st of October, some of you are fortunate enough to be involved with NAEP assessments. We will do the student upload for that. You'll notice there is not a checkbox over here, so it's something that happens that my office, Sarah and I, work on. So we've tried to be as complete as possible for this. You'll notice that our next meeting, for instance, is November 10th. It is a face-to-face at the Building Services large conference room on Flum Road. We will follow that up by, I think that's a Thursday. We'll follow it up on Monday, the following Monday, with another webinar. You can see that really that this is, again, access is the main topic, and forward, we'll have some more forward information. So, let's see, we're going to go back here. So that's the planning calendars. If there's something that you would like to see that in addition to that, we're just trying to create documents that allow you to be as organized as possible. We realize that everyone is crazy busy, and we want to support you in your busyness. Another thing that we've added this year is the over on the side where it says elementary and middle school and high school information. If you were to click on that, you will have, guess what? It's not showing me the calendar. Just a moment. This will come up. This will come up. There we go. With a calendar that will allow you to put meetings. Scroll through this. You'll see, for instance, today, elementary and middle school assessment meeting. If you click on that, it will give you the information about the scheduled meeting, and then at the bottom of that section it says copy to my calendar. So clicking on that will automatically put the meetings on your calendar for you. It's sometimes hit or miss by sending out invitations, but this will allow you right now to go through the rest of the year and take a look, or just however you want to do it for each month. And you can scroll down until we get to, let's look at, here is the November 10th meeting. It tells you where it's at, copy to my calendar, click on that, and it puts it on your calendar for you. So we're trying to make sure that you have access to information. You'll notice that there are testing windows that are also here. And so just an FYI. Also on this page, I've had several people ask, what are the district cut scores for the MAP assessment? You'll find the cut scores for this year, the benchmarks for reading and math, for MAP testing, for fall, winter, and spring on this page as well. And finally, the on track, what the proficiency is, the information for multiple assessments. If you're on track, what does it look like? And reading, typically reading level proficiency indicators as well are on this page. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is we're going to skip over to the CogAT page. So I'm going to follow this over to more assessments, and yes, there are more, as you're well aware. Scroll down to second grade and you'll find the CogAT screener. Here is the CogAT information page in Spanish and Hmong, as well as English. Information for understanding the results, a brief description, some discussion points, and these are basic questions that may start conversations if parents don't know the first thing about the CogAT assessment. Every one of these pages, if you scroll towards the bottom, you'll see assessment administration. By clicking on that particular link, it will take you, you'll have to log in if you aren't, it'll take you to the information page for coordinators. So here you have the assessment window. Here are the accommodations. I'm going to open this particular document. These are the acceptable accommodations for the CogAT for this year. Every single assessment that we have has a page like this. So if you wonder what are the accommodations and support for the forward exam, you can find that by looking on the forward coordinators page. You'll see these. If you find one that isn't there, please let us know. We believe we worked through, distilled from the documents that come with all of these assessments and distilled this down to just the bare minimum. If you need to know more information about this, you can find it in the guides for each one of the assessments, and they'll give you the specific details. But here, for instance, you'll see that English language learners for the CogAT, you can repeat the directions, you can read it aloud in the 5th grade, it tells you which section. If the student has an IEP or a 504, it says here are the allowable accommodations that do not invalidate the test. Every page has that. I'm going to go, I think that's, all right, so just muted that, and we'll go back. So as far as resources are concerned, there are several pages like this. Every assessment has a page. If you can't find it, send Sarah or myself an email, and we'll get that right to you. All right. Let me quick check my notes here. MAP reports. So let's take spend a little bit of time on MAP reports. I'm going to share the PowerPoint again. So tomorrow ends the MAP test window. Anything after 4 o'clock tomorrow will not be included in the MAP data. I request the reports Saturday morning, and the first thing I do when I get up, we'll have the data in hand on Monday morning, and we begin the process of cleaning the data and getting it ready for export into IC and then the data dashboard. Data should be ready for IC and data dashboard on the 31st of October, so 1 week from Monday. However, your own school data will be available beginning on Monday. So if you want to run a report, if you have something going on that you need to look at your building data, the final set of data will be available on Monday. The next thing, just to keep in mind, I know this is far out on the time horizon, but we have the climate survey coming up in the month of February. This will be for 3rd grade and above. The questions are being rewritten this year to be more age-appropriate, user-friendly. We've spent time with staff at a couple different buildings to go over the questions. We will be working on getting translations done prior to the February opening so that if you need a Spanish version of it for students, you can get that right away. And we hope that this goes a little bit smoother than it did last year. And the questions that were of concern to several people, we believe that we've worked out as far as language is concerned.
Tim, before you move on to opt-outs, I just wanted to say one more thing about MAP reports. So as Tim mentioned, on Monday we'll have the data available, and also on Monday Tim and I will start pulling individual student results for each school, and we will send those to printing as quickly as we can. Our hopes is to get them to you very soon so that you'll have them in hand for parent-teacher conferences in November. And so just so you know, we will take care of printing 1 copy for your school, and that will be sent to you from printing services.
So the idea is that you have something available for parents at parent-teacher conferences. We do not mail out MAP results in the fall. In the spring, we mail out middle school because of the way the report card is set up, but we make sure that elementary schools have the data and the reports in a timely manner so that you can add that to the stack of material that you send home with families. The question is, what happens if parents do not attend the parent-teacher conference? What do you do with the map data, map reports? At that point, I would suggest that you send them home, either with the student or if you choose to mail them. That is, we just want to make sure that the parents are able to get a hold of the information from the map reports. If you have any questions about what to do with data once you have it, as far as reports and student reporting, please let us know. The final topic for today is opt-outs. Now, we have been pretty good about sharing information, but over the summer, I got several phone calls from parents saying, wow, why doesn't the forward test, or why doesn't this or that test actually have any information? It says that there's no data because we opted out. That is pretty hard for me to explain other than, well, that's what the school told me. So here's what we're going to do. I've requested a couple times in the principal's newsletter that when a family opts out from any assessment, that principals or assessment coordinators, please email me or forward the email or scan the letter and send it to us, to either Sarah or myself, and we're keeping a master list of who opted out of what assessment. That way we can address any questions that parents have, especially in the summer when information comes in and not everybody is around in the schools, but also it allows us to try and preemptively remind you, say, oh, remember, so-and-so has opted out of the forward exam when it comes time for that. So please send us a list of all the letters or the emails that you get regarding opt-outs. Now, the question comes up, can students be opted out of access? And the answer is no, they cannot. So if a parent says, I am not going to have my child take the access, we honor that. But that is not considered to be an opt-out. It's a refusal to test. So that's what we have to put into the software. That's the information that we have to share with the state, that it was a refusal to test and not an opt-out. So in either case, please send us that information as soon as you get it. I know that it piles up and it's one more thing for you to do, but it actually is I think, going to be very helpful for all of us.
And Emily asked a really great question about opt-outs, which is, do families need to send a letter to opt out for every school year or assessment? The answer is that yes, requests do need to be made each school year. They're only good for that particular year, and parents need to send a letter each year that they intend to opt out.
The letter can be they can say, opt out of all district-wide standardized assessment. They could name those assessments specifically. I've had letters already opting their child out of MAP, and they specifically name that. I've had other letters already that say opting out of MAP and state standardized testing. So however it is, they need to do this on an annual basis, and then it needs to be in writing. Okay. As always, if you have questions, please contact us. Our phone numbers are here, our email. We tend to try to respond to you in a very timely manner. Sometimes that timely manner is 24 hours, and I apologize if it gets longer than that. But please connect with us if you have any kinds of questions. I'm going to open it up and see if there are any other questions, and if not, I'll hang out here for a little bit. I will stop the recording in a few minutes, and then we'll open it up for any specific questions to a building, and we'll go from there. If you can't get your question answered today, please send us an email, and we'll take care of it then. Any other last-second questions via group chat that we can address for everyone? Okay, we're going to stop recording, and this will be posted on the web shortly, and hopefully in the next 2 days, and we'll see how this goes. If you have feedback for us, we appreciate it. We're trying new things to see if we can support you in different ways, and this is one of them. So please let us know how things went. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm going to stop recording now.